Hey everybody, we're here for a new episode of the show that's yet to be named, fellow gamer JohnnyDonuts777 Potheads. I'm here with Putty, that's him.
Me.
Ooh, I'm here with JD777.
It's a pack of fun dip.
Yeah, that's his sponsor.
Please do.
Check him
Fun
out,
dip.
Gamer
Hey,
Potheads, everywhere on Google. Don't talk.
Included
Check him out, JohnnyDonuts777. I'll put his stuff in the link below. Today we're talking about top 5, in our opinion, like most influential superhero movies or comic book movies. It depends what you want to talk about.
I did comic book, but yeah,
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start off. We'll go 5, 5, 5, 4, 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, 2, 1. If you want to say a little something, you can. I suggest not, especially if you're Putty. And then we'll wait till we get to the end, and then we'll talk about it. And then we'll have honorable mentions and whatnot. But Putty, you can go first.
I'm gonna get so much.
Okay? This is. I'll say this. You tell us your movie and why. Like,
Okay.
Why is it the most influential in that position of your list? Okay.
All right, number 5 is. It's not a shocker. It's Deadpool, and the reason is because we are now going to get a lot more rated R movies because the studios now know. Hey, wait a second, we can actually make money off of rated R superhero movies. That's my reason. More to that later.
It's yours.
That's it. Yeah,
Mine?
that's it.
Yep.
Mine is The Watchmen, believe it or not.
Ooh, nice.
The Watchmen, only because it was probably one of the first non-Marvel DC films to make money. And it's a great story. Alan Moore is a great writer and a little crazy, but it's beside the point. But I thought it was a decent, and what it did was it shows that it doesn't have to be Marvel or DC. It can be something other than the mainline franchise.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, well, both of you very much helped me out with that. Your number 5s, because I was in a pickle of Rick the Pickle Tuscadero.
Tuscadero, yeah.
But shout out to myself. I was in a dilemma of, do I pick a movie rated R? You had it, and then not comic book, not like super big one. You had it. So, I mean, I'm safe to pick my number 5, which is Iron Man. I'm saying Iron Man because it set the comic book movies in the trajectory that we have now. Without that movie, we don't have anything now.
Yeah, I agree.
That's in my honorable mentions, and that's the reason why. But
it's in my top 5 list actually, but I'll it's later. So
yeah, okay. So go. You're next.
Okay, so my number 2 is
number 2.
Sorry, my number 4. Sorry, my number 4 is actually a number 2, and that is Spider-Man 2, the Sam Raimi film. I feel like, even though this first Spider-Man was amazing, I felt like that really set the bar high to say, listen, we can make a good movie and have a villain that's even better than the actual hero. And that was the only time I could say that outside of what my number 1 is, but we'll get back to that. So I picked that as my number 4.
My number 4 is Putty's number 5, Deadpool. Okay. Only because of the fact, like you said, we can have a rated R superhero movie. It doesn't have to be all sunshine and rainbows and family films. You can have foul mouth, like, you know what I mean? Like, and I think Deadpool is he's a new character. I think, like you said, it's going to lead into more R-rated films for the future.
And I don't want to continue for it, but I just want to say this real quick. I was actually going to put it higher on my list, but I felt like I was being biased in that situation.
You are always being biased when it comes to Deadpool.
I love Deadpool. He's my favorite superhero character. So that's the reason why I put him so high up on the list, because I'm just being honest with myself. There are other comic movies that definitely...
That is totally fair.
And I think John's even going to love my number 1. But anyway, John...
Well, without Deadpool, we won't have Logan.
Exactly.
Arguably, probably one of the best comic book films there is.
Fair enough.
Go on.
My number 4 is Superman 78. I believe it was 1978.
Mm-hmm.
It is the reason that we have superhero movies at all. It also showed what we continue to see today, that they will milk a franchise until it absolutely dies. So I think it's very important. It's a symbol of good and bad. It represents both. And he's the most popular superhero that exists in the world. Mm-hmm. And for him to be the first big one to get like a real movie, because like there was Batman 66, but are we really counting that as a movie? It's more of just an extension of the show.
Yeah.
Superman 78, and it launched his career into like outer space, and I think it's just very important.
Literally in Superman 4.
Yep. Yeah, right. Okay, so wait, I forgot the rotation. Yeah. Oh yeah, so what number are we at right now?
3.
Okay, so for 3 for me, I put The Dark Knight, and the reason I did was because Heath Ledger, it was finally a time when, like, Oscars in general, like the Academy Awards said, okay, wait a second, we actually need to look at this and think, okay, comic book movies can actually get some love and support. And it was generally a good movie. The writing, everything about it is just amazing, that I felt like it led into people making way more chances. Why I even feel like The Dark Knight would not, for not having a movie like that, Deadpool wouldn't exist, because it said we could take a darker approach, way darker approach, even though they did with the original Batman. This is what we can do as a really darker approach and make it more adult feeling to where it could fit. And that's why I put Dark Knight as my number 3.
Also, to add to your point, Aaron Eckhart gets overshadowed as Two-Face in that movie. He does a fantastic job in that. And everything, he gets overshadowed only because Heath Ledger is so good in that film. You don't give Aaron Eckhart enough love in that film, and let's give Aaron Eckhart some love in that.
I agree.
Yeah, I'll love him.
Thank you for not smoking. If you haven't seen it,
I was just gonna say that. I hate you.
Great film. Great film.
I've seen it too, and I agree. It's a fun. Anyway.
My number 3 is the '89 Batman. '89 Batman was that approach that took towards that the Dark Knight character. It was a little bit closer to that Frank Miller style of storytelling. The only really exposition we had to Batman at the time were that 70s cartoon show, the Justice League and the Batman 66, which are not bad by any stretch of the imagination. They're different, but we actually got more of that literally that Dark Knight. Those were the seeds for the Dark Knight, I think, was the '89 Batman. And, contrary to what everybody was saying, I think Michael Keaton did a great job.
I agree.
Jack Nicholson was fantastic. Like, the cast, was a spot on cast. Even Billy D. Williams is Harvey Dent. Little cameo, but he's there.
Yep.
Okay. My number 3, and so anyone that I have the same as you guys, I'm just gonna make a different argument to add to it. Mm-hmm. So my number 3 is The Dark Knight. I think what it did is it showed that you could make a really, really, really serious and grounded superhero movie where it's not even about the superhero anymore, and and you can. Not only was it commercially viable, you made so much money. It was able to get nominated for awards because people looked past the fact that it was a superhero movie because of the way that they made it.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't dependent on being a superhero movie. It very much relies on the aspects of the darkness of Batman and the detective side of Batman. And that's why, plus the performances. It showed that you can have great performances in a superhero movie.
Agreed.
Okay, so for my number 2, I have Iron Man. Now, Iron Man, I put at number 2, pretty much like the same reasons. Iron Man set the bar high for what can be done as a franchise, and to continue. Like, even to know that Robert Downey Jr. just basically took that role and actually even fed his own lines that became iconic, like "I am Iron Man," things of that nature. So I feel like that movie did set the bar high for them to continue making something big. And honestly, if we didn't have that, if that movie did not turn out to be good, we would not be probably even having this list right now because of how big the MCU got, and then just in general of how that movie set that bar so high. So that's why I put that at number 2.
Yes, sir.
I want to just add something to that since we both have had Iron Man. I think that something that Iron Man did was it's the first superhero movie where you can absolutely identify an actor with that role. Like, it's happened again later, but it doesn't happen anywhere else. The Joker, you could be so many options, Batman. But when you think of Iron Man, it's Tony Stark, only Robert Downey Jr. Even when you watch the animated show, they make the person sound like Robert Downey Jr. on purpose.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
So in keeping with that vein, my number 2 is actually Iron Man 2.
Ooh. Ouch, actually.
No, let him tell us.
The reason being is that planted the seeds of the Avengers Initiative. You had Nick Fury in that film. And that was, I think, the reason why Iron Man 2 beat out the first Iron Man. Even though what Iron Man did for the MCU in general, they took this wayside character that wasn't even popular in the comic books, and they built a franchise around him.
Shout out to that. They took, that's another reason that Iron Man should be on all of our lists, period, is they took a no-name, well, not a no-name, but a character no one gave a shit about, and they made it prominent.
Well, we don't got Spider-Man. We don't got this. We don't got the X-Men. Who can we build a franchise around?
Exactly. And see, I will say this. You said Iron Man 2. I actually liked Iron Man 2. A lot of people said Iron Man 3. Iron Man 3 made me mad. Iron Man 2, a lot of people hated. I'm like, this is actually good. They did a great job.
Iron Man 2 was a really well-written film. The cast was also really good. You had, what's his name?
Sam Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell as Hammer over there. You have...
Whiplash from
Mickey Rourke.
Which you're gonna get Hammer back because they're doing Armored Wars now.
Yeah, so you're gonna get Hammer.
That's right. I forgot about that.
So it's like the cast was really good, and like I said, you just that little tease of Nick Fury with the whole Avengers Initiative that set the scene.
And you had Scarlett
Johansson,
Black Widow.
Yeah.
So that was the first appearance of another Marvel character in a film. So it's like I think that kind of like that got the ball roll, because with Iron Man you didn't know what it could have been a one and done and that's it.
Yeah.
When they released Iron Man 2, I think that's what set the ball rolling, and it got people speculating. Oh shit, we're gonna have Avengers. Who are we going to cast? Who are we going to like? That's when all the fantasy casting started. Who's going to play this role? Who's going to play that role? So I think Iron Man 2, for me personally, was a little bit more influential than the first one. Plus, you had Mickey Rourke going, "I want my board."
Yeah. I love it.
All right, so I'm on 2, right?
Yeah, you're on 2.
You guys just did 2? Okay, so my number 2 is Batman 89, and I'll explain it in a different way now. You showed that you didn't need a mega star to carry a franchise. You showed that a sort of underground, up-and-coming director could take a franchise and make a moneymaker out of it. The movie as a whole showed that superhero movies can destroy the box office, which is they thought that superhero movies at that time were box office like dumpster fires, and it set everything in the right direction. Sorry, you had the no-name actor, not no-name, but like the guy who nobody wanted in the role that you didn't expect, who did well, and then you also had a huge name.
Yeah, more known for comedic
roles, right?
But he blew up from Batman. Like he already was a name actor, but Batman is the point when he was a household name. You knew who Michael Keaton was. And then you also had Jack Nicholson, who's like an acclaimed actor who took a role. And at that point, no one had done that. Gene Hackman, okay, but he wasn't as big as he became after Superman. He kept becoming a bigger star after that. And
Jack Palance.
Yeah, exactly. Jack Palance. And then you had Prince did the soundtrack, and that was a whole new thing. That was and just
the bad dance.
The visual of it was a comic book. It's the superheroes had never been treated like a comic book, really, except for maybe Batman 66. Because like Wonder Woman was like way off course in that show. It was good, but it wasn't like the comic book.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a very important movie for that reason.
Yeah. Agree to that.
All right. So I want to say this before I go into my number 1. I was kind of, I wanted to do, I was going to be like, oh, he's going to pick Avengers. He's going to pick even maybe Sin City. He's going to pick even Spider-Man into Spider-Verse. But since we're talking about, my number 1 is Batman 89. And the reason I put it as number 1 is this. Listen, I grew up reading comic books. I grew up wanting the movies to happen, okay? I was even going to put X-Men in my thought here because when I saw X-Men theaters, I was excited to see it. But the reason I state Batman is because of one reason. It was the one time that me and my mom would go to the theaters and set a day or weekend for Batman. I remember distinctly as a kid going to see Batman Forever and getting the glasses from McDonald's that had like Two-Face and the Riddler and all those, and getting it after the movie. Even though the movie was not that great compared to the other two, my point to the thing is it made an adventure, and that's what happened. That's what the movies are for you to go out and have fun. Batman set that bar. Batman said basically, listen, this is how a comic book movie done. It doesn't have to have superpowers. He could be a regular person like anybody else. He can actually do exactly what Superman, all these other characters do, and in his own way. And that made it to where we started getting crazy movies like Darkman. I remember Tank Girl coming out and wanted to see that.
Batman set off a chain reaction.
Yeah, and that's my whole point. When this list that says most influential comic book movies, and even though I would love to put Avengers on there because it was the first time it be able to put all these together as one, I don't think we'd ever get an Avengers movie. We would not get an Iron Man movie. We wouldn't even get Ninja Turtles if it wasn't for Batman being so successful in theaters because it made toy lines. There was no toy line for Superman. Everything wanted to be part of Batman. Video games, movies, comic books, everything wanted to be part of it because they saw how big it actually could be, and it was something new. And that is why Batman 89, I feel, is the #1 influential comic book movie of all times. Thank you.
Welcome to my TED Talk.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, yeah, no, he made a great point. For me, though, it's Superman 78.
Okay.
The reason we all have different movie.
Yes. The reason being for me, Superman 78, really, if you think about it, that's the first comic book movie. Contrary, like you had Batman 66, like you said, but in terms of like serious comic book movie, Superman 78 is the first one. You had a phenomenal director in Richard Donner.
Dick Donner.
Christopher Reeve, who took that role and made it his own. Star power, as short as this character was in the film, you had Marlon Brando in the film. So you had the star power in there. You had Gene Hackman, which is, again, star power in that film. So that movie, I think, for me, is the most influential comic book movie, only in terms of that is the first. And when it's the first of something, nobody can take that away from you.
Good point.
It also spawned the first director's cut of a superhero movie.
Exactly.
Yep.
And agreed. So when you're the first of something and nobody can, it's like the first heavyweight champion, the first of anything, that's your title and yours alone. And I think that's, for me personally, that's why I think Superman 78 is #1 for me.
Shit, you know what? We're gonna start doing this as like fights because we're all this is getting like movie fights on Screen Junkies.
Wrestling promos.
Yeah.
Wrestling promos.
But yeah, I think before I get to my #1, I think everyone's done a great job at adding to what the last person said about the same movie. So my #1 is on nobody's list, and I will easily explain why it's #1. It's Avengers. Okay. The reason I'm saying that this is the most influential movie, okay, I already have Superman on the list for what it did, and I have Batman for what it did. So I think I have my lead up. You have Iron Man, you have Dark Knight. This movie showed that not only is it possible to combine other superheroes together into a group, but that building a universe works, and that you can have good acting and comedy and action in a superhero movie done right.
Mm-hmm.
You put, like, it's never been done. Like, we never saw Batman and Superman get together. You getting to see Iron Man, Captain America, the Hulk, Thor, which admittedly, other than Captain America, who I still don't think of as an A-list superhero, they were all B-list superheroes. Like, none of them were C, except for like maybe Scarlet Witch, Black Widow and Hawkeye. But this movie not only showed the box office, showed the critics, showed the fans, everybody that it could get done. It brought in new people. It changed the entire face of the actual comic books that were in place, because now people started watching, not wanting to read about Black Widow and Hawkeye and the Hulk. And at this point, you're in a lull of no one was buying we're almost in the second time that comic books went bust.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, I'm done.
I want to say this real quick. You had put Avengers on the list, and what's really funny is when I put Batman on the list for #1, my first thought is I actually thought you, John, would actually put Batman as #1, and I figured that that would be the same thing that that I would have put Avengers as #1. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just because of how we love it. But the thing is, I think me and you both respect each other in that way, and understanding how both of those movies.
I said,
these lists are all
Marvel.
subjective, right? These lists are all subjective.
I do love the Marvel movies. I'm just not a huge fan of the comic books. It's just when we did our franchise list, shout out, it's going to be on Putty's channel. It's probably already out, but I mean, it's just not the thing that I fanboy for. It doesn't mean that I don't like it. Like, there's a lot of movies that I think are really, really good movies that I hate because I don't like them, but I can't lie and say they're bad movies.
But that's why I put Batman 98 where I was, because that's the whole point of the whole
Batman
thing.
98, is that Batman and Robin?
No, 89. Sorry, 89. Sorry. No, but Batman 89. I read that wrong.
I think it's fair. Yeah, I think what I had all the movies of importance I felt like on my list, and then the reason Avengers #1 is because it did something that no one has ever done. It went, all those other movies did something that something had done before. Like, there was Batman 66, regardless of how you think of it, before Superman. Yeah. And there was Batman before Batman, and there was Superman before the other Batman, and so on, as I'm saying.
Yeah.
But this did something completely new and spawned the way we look at superhero movies now. But I get it, Iron Man got us there, but without Avengers popping off the way that it did, it's over. Yeah, it was going to end because Thor wasn't that good. Hulk, nobody liked it. I did. And then I hate Captain America First
Which
Avenger.
one, though? Worst. The Ang Lee one or the one?
Oh, no. Either. But I mean,
where he looked like Shrek.
So before we go, I'm going to open up the floor for if we want to talk about this or honorable mentions. But I just want to say what I was saying at the beginning about you guys picking it to me. So for me, I had Logan as my rated R movie because I think that it's a way better movie, obviously, than Deadpool. It's maybe, to me, it's top 5 quality made superhero movies. And it showed that rated R could be rated R without being excessively, like, Deadpool is rated R, and I get it, and I agree with you guys putting it on your list. But it's excessive, it's overly sweary, it's overly gory, just to be rated R, but I get it, that's the character of Deadpool. But Logan did it in a way where it was subtle, and it was like, it was so well put together. And then my other one was a movie that is not a major franchise or whatever, and I had Sin City was going to be my choice.
That's the one I'm mentioning.
Because technically Watchmen is DC, but so is Sin City.
Yes. And it was a toss-up between one of those. And the only reason why I didn't put Spawn on my list is because the movie was terrible.
Yeah, see, I still kind of enjoyed it. Like, for example, like when I did my honorable mention list, these were movies that I loved, but I felt like they, like, for example, Blade's on the list. It's a first rated movie, but I don't feel like it actually launched with people.
Exactly. But see, for me, Blade is on my honorable mentions for a different reason, showing that you can have a black-led superhero.
That's why it's on. There's 2 of them on my honorable mentions for that, and that's that.
And Wesley Snipes did a phenomenal job in at least the first 2 films. The third one was a little iffy, but like, it shows that you can have a superhero movie, more of an anti-hero than a superhero, which he was, and have it led by a person of color or somebody other than your average buff white male. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But he dropped this one.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, did he say Blade? Okay, no, you go. You already said Blade.
He said, well, you can expand on something else, Putty. Go ahead. Well, I took your thunder.
Well, that's fine. But the one I want to, the first one I actually have on my list is actually Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And see, the thing is, the reason I put that on there is because it's one of those movies that everyone thinks of the cartoon, but then a lot of people that watch the movie that know about the comic books know that a lot of that stuff in there outside of the pizza and the cowabunga was stuff that stemmed from the comic books. And that's what made me think, even though people didn't know it was a comic book, I'm like, dude, if you don't realize how many elements from the comic book stemmed into that movie, and you enjoyed it, but you were like, oh, it came from the movie. No, that actually came from the comic book before the cartoon even existed.
Yeah, they do it. That's
the cartoon was there to sell toys.
Exactly.
Yeah, here, I'll throw one out there. So this is an easy one. The X-Men, the first X-Men. It showed that the group dynamic of like a superhero group, not like Avengers. Avengers is a bunch of solo heroes becoming a group.
Yeah.
X-Men is already a group, and it did a really good job, and it set off a very well-made universe minus a couple movies. But it showed that you didn't have to be owned by Disney or Warner Brothers to do it. Like, Fox was a big studio, but they were more like not into this type of movie.
Yeah. I agree with that. That was probably the first, and it wasn't just the X-Men that was ensemble. You had the Brotherhood as well, right? Yep. So you had the 2 factions against each other, and they didn't need films leading into it to explain who these characters are. It's like, Here are their characters. Enjoy.
And shout out to Bryan Singer, because the thing is, here's the thing: there's a lot of things I didn't like. Well, let me just say why though. There's a lot of things I didn't like. For example, the things I didn't like were Sabretooth and Wolverine not knowing each other. That really hurt me when I saw it. But then there was slight things like the whole joke and the costumes, perfect. And then because there's other parts that were still kind of bad. You know what I mean? How the whole Toads lightning thing was horrible. But then what also was really good is that, for example, he changed slight things like the costume, but also like the Brotherhood of Mutants. In the comic book, they're called Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. He was like, we don't want to call them evil. We want to just say that they have their own agenda that's not bad. It's just they've been downtrodden and they want to show that, hey, we're not bad guys, but we are superior. You know what I mean? And that's why
the cartoon show did a decent job of that as well.
The X-Men movie, shout out to Roy Thompson Hall, where the opening scene was filmed.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. Shout out to Central Commerce, where I went to school. That's like the mansion is Central Commerce. I'm pretty sure.
Wasn't it Casa Loma?
I think it was after. I think in the first one, or at least the interior of it is. It's
Casa Loma.
Okay. Yeah, no, the outside is Casa Loma.
Oh, okay. The interior.
It's a mix. I don't know. I know
because I remember that solarium from Casa Loma.
Yeah, you're right.
If you haven't been to Toronto, it's like this old house thing.
It's like a castle. It's the only castle that we have. But I mean, okay, so Spider-Man showed that. To me, a big thing that it did was it took a horror director and put him to direct a superhero kind of kids movie,
comedy-ish,
and it worked very well.
I agree with that.
It's okay if I read the trade of Spider-Man and say we didn't mention Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Okay,
I feel like a lot of ways won the awards it won, and then not just that, it's just. It showed that, hey, we could take a comic book and show it in a different light, whether it be the different animation, things of that nature, and then at the same time say, hey, we can also go multiverse with this. That movie right there alone has made Marvel and all them go, wait a second, we can do the same thing too. We can now do this and actually work off of this. Yeah. And honestly, it's another reason why, just like the whole Avengers and Iron Man thing, I feel like they wouldn't have gone the multiverse route if Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse wasn't successful.
I also want to tag on that because I think that Into the Spider-Verse going forward is going to make a difference. Right now, we might not have seen it yet, but it showed that an animated superhero movie is viable and can be not only commercially successful, but critically successful.
Exactly.
Let's throw out Joaquin Phoenix's Joker.
Oh my God, yes. I
wouldn't have put it on my list, but I agree.
Yeah, but I mean, just as an honorable mention,
it shows that that villains are bankable. Just as bankable as heroes,
but like I said, it's also the story of Arthur Fleck is a heartbreaking story. If you really deep down, it's a psychological movie. It's not an action movie. It's not a superhero movie. It's a comic book character, but it's this really deep, dark. Like it was probably one of the darkest movies comic book movies I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I agree.
Because it deals with mental illness.
It plays off basically Scorsese's movies.
Yeah, Kings of Comedy.
King of Comedy, Taxi Driver, sorry. It actually, like Mean Streets, it plays off a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And it's really well done. And I think if you want to watch Joker, but you don't want to watch Joker, watch Cruella, because it's basically
the same thing with more songs.
It's really good. It's a lighter version of Joker.
And can I also mention, and I'm gonna go ahead and say this out loud in case you haven't seen the movie yet. So big spoiler alert, okay, right here, right now, to put that out there so that way, because I'm about to say, so mute me until you see someone else talking. But anyway, my point to the whole thing is, a shout out to the whole situation where they turned the whole Batman story on its head. Because when I got to the ending and saw that what he did caused for the Waynes to die, and then that started the whole Bruce Wayne story. When I first saw that, I was like, that's freaking genius. That's a whole other way of looking at the movie that you would never thought of, or the comic book in general. And when I saw that, I said, this is the way I would want them to change a comic book movie if they're going to do anything, and do it this way.
Yeah,
And that
I
was one
agree.
thing I just when I saw that ending, I was like, my jaw dropped. It was
They
one of
also
those-
left the door open for like the way that the comics have been going lately to be that he might not be the actual Joker.
I was going to
Exactly,
say that. I was
exactly.
just going to say that he could be the catalyst that
That
influences
inspired.
the real Joker.
Exactly. And that's when, and then of course that'd be the right age to where he saw that he'd be the same age as Bruce Wayne when Bruce Wayne's parents died, and all of a sudden we have the conflict of Batman and
Well, I mean, they played on that theory that Thomas Wayne is Joker's biological father,
yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah,
Even though in the movie he wasn't Arthur Fleck's father, but there are theories that Batman and Joker are half brothers. That's why they can never kill each other, and that's why I remember the Arkham series of games at the end of Arkham where he's carrying Joker. Spoilers for a 10-year-old game.
Yeah.
But that's the Cain and Abel painting where Abel, biblical history lesson here, Cain kills his brother Abel, and he's carrying him out into, and that's when he gets banished by his family. And that portrays the same thing. In the Arkham comic, you see the Cain and Abel painting, and then Batman's carrying Joker in the exact same way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's where I think the whole theory stemmed from. And off topic, but yeah, that's my theory at least.
All right, well, I'm gonna throw some more here because I got 2 left and I just want to get them out. So Wonder Woman, I think
was on mine too. Yep.
I think not only did it do the female superhero the best, it's so much better than Captain Marvel that it's it's so much better than Supergirl movie. It's so much better than Catwoman movie. It's like, I don't care about the second one. The second one, I accept it and I have fun with it because it's like a comic book, but it's not a good movie.
Well,
but
it was good, but it can be better.
Exactly.
Like,
I like that. We're gonna drop that meme somewhere.
Can I just throw this in there that you mentioned Catwoman? I'm sorry, The Room is better than Catwoman. All right, go ahead.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. My last one here is X-Men First Class.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll explain why. Because it took a franchise, the same franchise that was absolutely tanking at the moment, turned it around, and it's the first soft reboot that we've ever had in a comic book movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it did it so well that it's left the door open for it to happen again, which DC is kind of doing that right now. And First Class is my favorite X-Men movie, and it brought a cast of people together that just works so well, and it handles it. Everything about that movie just handled well, especially coming off the faults of the last like 3 movies that you made.
And what I like too, they took lesser known mutants too. You don't have your Storm, your Cyclops. It was
much closer to the comic book.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say this: when you mentioned the whole X-Men thing, I want to say the one I actually thought about instead of X-Men First Class was actually X-Men 2,
United.
The X-Men United. I'm sorry, I almost slurred my words there. But my point, the reason is because that was the one time, even though I loved X-Men, I feel like when they did X-Men 2, they finally understood and polished what was great about the first X-Men movie. And they finally started doing things that felt more realistic to the whole mutant and thing, though, because that was a big part of why I loved the original comic and the cartoon was that it felt like it was like a whole being biased or being being against mutants in general, that they really focused on it. And it also kind of jumped up to where mutants became that thing that were despised, because they never really focused on that in the first X-Men movie as much as I felt they did in X-Men 2. You know what I mean? And that's
a better movie.
Yeah, I agree.
And Nightcrawler in that film is phenomenal. The effects with Nightcrawler were amazing. I really like the scene where they go to the house and Logan grabs the soda and Bobby Drake just makes it cold for him.
Exactly.
The only thing I didn't like was they did Pyro dirty.
Yeah,
I agree. But see, at the same time, I kind of understood why they did the whole Pyro thing, because you got to remember, Pyro does end up with Magneto in the comics as well.
He does, yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is, it kind of fit into that story, especially with
he plays a bigger role with Magneto than he did in the film.
Yeah, I agree.
Isn't he Australian in the show?
Pyro?
Yeah, Pyro.
Okay, JD, you got one more for us?
No, you just mentioned the one I had was Wonder Woman, female-led superhero done right.
Now, I do want to go back to one that we all.
You got 1 minute.
Okay, one more I just want to go back to was Sin City, just because of the visuals itself alone.
Well, it also proved that you can make a not only a good movie, but an extremely different movie.
It was a noir, yeah.
Like it's very out of the box, and it like I'd love to see a sleeper movie. Ed Brubaker. That's a great comic series. Like it's a good spy thriller, and I'd love to see that. Or Manhattan Projects. Jonathan Hickman.
Yeah, I'm glad they're making Sandman as well. I feel like that would.
Yeah,
that's a series. That's a series, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
oh, is it a series?
Yeah,
oh,
still
okay.
take it.
Yeah. I mean, Preacher wasn't bad. I didn't mind Preacher either.
I mean, Legion was all right too, and so was the other one. I don't even remember. There's another X-Men show.
No, here's another one I can
Gen 13.
No.
Oh my god, I wish they did. I love Gen 13.
Hey, Putty, we're running out of time here. What else do you have?
That's it. I had Spider-Man, TMNT, X-Men, Sin City, Blade, and Avengers. Those are my honorable mentions.
All right, well, we're good now. Thank you for watching, guys. Let us know your most influential in the comments below. I will leave their stuff in the comments below, but not in the comments in the thing above it called the description. Show them your fun dip.
Oh, my fun dip.
Dipstick included.
For Toronto Franco and Puttyman.
Toronto Franco.
I'm Pickles Tuscadero and
AK Campo Crunch.
Campo Crunch.